ignited by Prime Minister Modi over the so-called Revdi culture. Because the other pattern across these states is every state competing with each other over so-called freebies. Now, first, there needs to be a clear definition of what is a freebie, what is welfareism. For example, many believe that for the BJP in Madhya Pradesh, what did the trick to win an election was the Ladli Behna scheme. Simple, 1,250 rupees by DBT put in the accounts of all women below the poverty line. There were more than 1.10 crore women, and many believe that was the game changer. Now, that's going to lead to every government saying, okay, you put, that happened in Madhya Pradesh. Kamal Nath said 1,500. Once Shivraj Singh Chauhan said 1,250, he said 1,500. Chauhan then doubled it. I'll give you 3,000. And that seems to be the pattern. Now, are these cash transfers the way forward in your view? Are they empowering? You do seem to suggest that at some level they do empower a woman in a household if she gets 1,250 rupees. Do you believe that? That's democracy. Politicians want to win elections. Raghuram Rajan and Rohit Lamba want to solve and want to look at India's economic future. The politician is looking, how do I win the next election? There's a mismatch.
No, so really we want to have the debate move towards, is this the best use of government money? And so to some extent we are saying yes, when it's targeted at the poorest households, it can help that poor household feed its kids better, dal instead of chawal, more protein, less cereal sometimes, which can be beneficial. Send them to, local school, which is non-government because the government teacher doesn't show up. That gives the school some competition, but gives the household some choice. So those are all positive effects that can allow poor households to invest in their people. The problem comes when this becomes much more untargeted and becomes a competition for who can give more, at which point you start bankrupting the government, right? So one example of what we think is a no-go area is converting the new pension scheme to the old pension scheme, which we think is a movement to transfer enormous amounts, which will surely make it very difficult to conduct development spending in a government.
But the Congress believes it won Himachal Pradesh on the old pension scheme. No, so suddenly the Congress was even saying we'll legislate to bring back the old pension scheme.
I think that therefore those kinds of schemes are poorly targeted because they targeted at a sector which is already doing reasonably well. You just said everybody wants to become a government official. Well, if they want to become a government official, even with the old pension scheme, it means, even with the new pension scheme, it means they're pretty happy with the kind of job security they're getting. Why go back to the old pension scheme and bankrupt the government down the line? So that's an example where we disagree with the kind of this thing because it's very poorly targeted. But where it is well targeted, some is okay. But you have to be careful because you don't want to extend it to a point where everybody thinks that's the way forward and you're underinvesting in schools, underinvesting in healthcare, underinvesting in nutrition, all those good things that we talk about.
There's a very simple principle here that works is that your transfer, Rajdeep, is a Revdi and my transfer is Jan Kalyan. So I think this is a problem. I think for economists, you're exactly right. There is a mismatch. And I think the mismatch comes through institutional checks and balances, right? So, and a very important role in this has to be played by intellectuals, the media, and so on, and continuously informing the public. Because it's and I was watching your coverage and the coverage of a lot of other people who were going to the ground and talking to people, and it's not as if the people don't understand. I saw lots of young people saying that how long can we do this? Yeah. That there's a fiscal arithmetic that you'll run up against. It's not as if but I think people need to be much more informed. I think the unfortunate thing is, I do think that as people, as all of us whose job is to inform people, we are failing at some level because I think we are becoming prisoners of set instruments. And those set instruments, as you're rightly pointing out, have broadly come down to two. Dividing the pie of government jobs further and further into reservations and asking for or pushing more and more sort of welfareism. And I think it's a real failure of imagination and also of communication that we are not able to expand the conversation beyond these two instruments. At this point, if we want to reach Amrit Kal, the youth should be demanding private sector jobs and demanding more,
And this is the dialogue change that we want. You're saying the dialogue is not here. We're saying yes. Therefore, we need to offer an alternative that people start talking about. Look, when we talk about freebies, I remember as governor, the problem I had was that state after state was declaring a total farm loan waiver. And I said, where is your money? They used to come, before the election, they promised the farm loan waiver. After the election, they'd come to me and say, sir, kaise karenge? And they used to say, please give us, give us forbearance. Don't call this an NPA, this, that, etc. Now, that is a problem where you don't look at what your budget can take, and state after state is getting into the problem. I think we also need to have independent institutions which rank all these promises. How does this add up? And what will you have to cut down the line? So these things come over time. They won't come immediately, but over time there'll be greater public recognition that if they promise all this, that means less for me, because I'm not going to get my better school, I'm not going to get better.
Which brings me to the contentious question. Do politicians listen to good advice?
Over time. Over time. Remember Keynes' famous statement that, all...
Particularly from economists, sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, but Keynes' famous statement, all political action, they're slaves of some academic scribbler long ago. I think what happens is when you put the ideas out into the public domain, they get debated. Eventually some politician says, this is my good idea and I will go and implement it. So you need them to take ownership. You need them to transform it a little bit so it becomes their ownership, their idea. And then it gets implemented. I think it's a point, the point is to put the ideas out for debate. And that's to some extent what we're trying to do with this book.
I think there's also, it's a little bit of, I would argue, political entrepreneurship lacking. Like if you read this fantastic biography of Deng Xiaoping by Ezra Vogel, I think, I forget the last name. What comes out really is that Deng Xiaoping decided at some point that he needed to open up. But what was he a great political entrepreneur at was that at every step as he opened up the economy, he said, we are fulfilling Mao's dream. We are fulfilling Mao's dream. And he was dismantling every aspect of... And what comes out also, very well in Vinay Sitapathi's brilliant biography of Narasimha Rao is how Narasimha Rao kind of also did this using Manmohan Singh as the, and he took advice from a set of serious economists and said, no, we are fulfilling Nehruvian vision of socialism in India, but he dismantled over a period of 3 years some very important laws that helped liberalize Indian economy. I think that requires a certain kind of political entrepreneurship to do what is supposed to be done, but take everyone along while doing it.
That's a huge challenge because, Indian politicians will often talk the good talk. Particularly in gatherings like this, they'll talk about, need for more governance, less government. When they go back, and particularly at election time, it just reverses. They talk about more government and less governance. I just therefore wonder whether you're going to need more political entrepreneurs. You've had a few. I mean, Chandrababu Naidu is one person who stands out for me. He saw the future. Go to Hyderabad today. You get a sense that compared to other cities, it's been a step, ahead of the curve. I just wonder you'll need many more such entrepreneurs who are willing to evangelize, take risks. Prime Minister Modi does take risks. I mean, and he has a huge majority government. I just wonder whether that makes him more suited to carrying forward the kind of dialogue or less suited because a majority government can also rapidly turn, according to critics, into an authoritarian government.
Well, I mean, I think that's the downside risk. The upside risk is he has the majority to implement a lot of what we talk about in the book. So, look, I think everybody wants the best for India. If there is a will to do it, wherever that will comes from, that's great. I think it will move forward at that point. But, to some extent, what we're talking about is a package deal. You need to do a whole bunch of things. You need the will to do that. But you also have to let go of power to some extent because that's going to be the check and balance when you go off track.
Because there's been this huge debate whether coalition governments are better suited to take forward some of these reforms than majority governments. No. You went for Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra. And that stirred a controversy because that image of you and the two of you being interviewed, next thing we knew, then you were a Congress politician.
Yeah. No, I've been a Congress politician for long, according to to at least.
So is that part of the, that engaging even with politicians today or sort of trying to trigger a dialogue with them leads you to being labeled one side or the other in a polarized society as we've become?
Well,
is it possible to have the kind of dialogue that you want in this book and really break the mold?
I think I've been open to dialogue with all. Few people remember that I advised Yashwant Sinha when he was part of the NDA, he was the NDA finance minister, and he even thanks me in his book. So,
So you're happy to have Chai Pe Charcha with Prime Minister Modi as well, right?
if anybody invites me to talk in any party, and I've had discussions with multiple parties, which I don't want to disclose on this thing, but it's all about how can I help you on your policies. I work with the DMK government in Chennai today. I have talked, of course, with the Congress party, but I've talked with other parties also. The point is, how can we move this country forward? And that's really what our common endeavor is.
Engage with the idea, not the identity.
Engage with the idea, not the identity. Rohit has recognized the importance of the one-liner. In the era of soundbites and in the era of social media, often misinterpreting what you say and do.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.